Welcome to Skills of the Future, a podcast by Perennial Talent. In this mini-series, we explore the skills and competencies needed to face the new realities of work.
Welcome to our Skills of the Future podcast, and our theme for this series is HR Game Changer Skills and Competencies Needed to Face the New Realities of Work. My name is Christine Lamothe. I am president of Perennial Talent, a competency-based talent management company offering different solutions to our client. And our guest today is Kimberly Southern-Weber. Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. I'm so glad to be on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you. So Kimberly is Director of Global Learning and Organization Development at Maxar Technology. And Kimberly is a senior level organizational effectiveness and talent management professional with 20 plus year track record of success in organizational readiness, so important, and talent management. And I know you are very passionate about developing corporate initiative and shaping transformational efforts to help employees grow professionally and fulfill potential. And especially during these times, your talent in that area is very important. And Kimberly, in addition to her family, I know where you get all the time to do that, is also president of the Denver Metro Chapter Association of Change Management Professionals. So, yes. Wow, that's great. Very impressive. And we're so happy to have you. So how are you surviving this pandemic, all the demands that are being placed on you?
Yeah, well, I will admit my family kindly just gave me the weekend to recharge. So they are off to North Dakota to have a little bit of fall fun with my in-laws. So looking forward to a weekend of lots of tea drinking, maybe a glass of wine, just some relaxation and recharging. I've got a stack of books sitting right next to me, so excited to just have a little bit of time and decompression. Because it's been a lot. It's been relentless between, I'm a working mom, yeah. I've got 2 young kids, and I've got work and all of that. So excited for a little downtime.
Good for you. You deserve it. And that is so good for our mental health.
Yeah.
And you should take more of these moments. Whatever helps makes us a better mom, better employee, and better, partner. So how's the world of work change at Maxar? What is the impact been, of more employees working remotely?
Yeah, that's a very thought-provoking question. I think in some ways that we have seen our employees, one of the things that we've found, we've been doing some surveys as we have gone through this pandemic, and one of the things that we found is that employees have generally felt supported by our organization, and in fact that has continued to go up as we have continued to live in this pandemic world. But then the other piece that goes with that is people are not feeling as strong or as good as they did at the beginning of the pandemic. So I think some of the ways that work has changed, it's always on, right? Work is always there. I know my computer is sitting in the corner of my office and I can turn it on at any time. And family's always on. So, I make sure I have a lock on my door so that, especially for important meetings, I don't have a little one coming in and trying to talk to whoever I'm talking to at the same time. It's at the beginning of the pandemic, I really felt like I had gained all this time because I no longer had a commute. And I was just realizing last week that I don't use that time for the walks that I was doing originally. I've really started filling it with work. And so I think one of the things that for me, and I've heard from a lot of employees at Maxar, is we need to be conscious of that and really deliberate in the time that we're spending to make sure that we are having even daily recharge. And I think work has become more personal. It's because it's always here. And my entire team now have met and talked to my family. My family has talked to people on my team. So it's it's no longer a work-life balance. I think for a long time we've talked about work-life integration. So I think that's definitely something that's changed. I also feel like, at least for me personally and for my team, we are driving ourselves harder. We really believe in the mission that we have for our company, but also for the employees that we serve. So we are working really hard to make sure that we're providing people opportunities and development. I think another thing that has changed for the entire population is we're having to get more comfortable with being more personal when we are talking to employees. So when we are worried about somebody maybe having a mental health issue or struggling, we're having to really get comfortable in a way that I don't think we were before, to say, hey, are you doing okay? Or, you know, checking in on people and figuring out flexibility so that we're not overtaxing people. And just that, I don't know, there's this level of consciousness that I don't believe we had before that we do now as a result of the pandemic.
You know, you're so right. I've been talking to other HR professionals within their organization. And of course, the issues vary, but some are consistent. And mental health has come out consistently, making sure that employees, you know, are not just surviving, but coping and trying to give them, you know, the tools, the support that they need. And some organization I've even had like Disconnect Friday, you know, where there's no meetings, you're still working, but you're not connected. Just to get a break, because I had a previous employee, she called me last week and she said she was going crazy with all these Zoom meetings, and it's like schedule one after another, as opposed to when you had meetings at work. At least you had a break to walk to the meeting room to prepare or plan for it. But she said they had to put a stop to that because it was too much, you know, just too much.
Yeah.
So that's good.
One thing we've tried to do is just recommend that people end meetings 5 minutes early, so they have a bit of a passing period or the ability to stand up. I mean, it's embarrassing how often my watch tells me you need to stand for a minute. So I totally understand that.
So, you know, Kimberly, thinking of talent, you know, life cycle, like hiring, learning and development, career pathing, etc. What is the biggest or greatest change that you've seen at Maxar? Are there any areas or role where this is, you know, especially salient?
I would say for my group, it's been helping people not lose focus. I think one of the things, and there's a few different areas that we've seen that. I think right now with everything that we have coming at us, it's really been difficult to do good time prioritization or time management, figure out what's important because everything feels really important. So helping people not lose that focus, and even help people not lose focus on themselves. Help them understand that professional development and taking care of yourself in that way is not selfish, right? It is something that you should continue to do, even if you're sitting in your basement every day and it doesn't feel like you know, maybe it doesn't feel like you're progressing. There are still ways that you can continue to develop yourself. And so I would say from a need or a change, helping people continue to skill up, helping people represent themselves and speak up for themselves. And then I would also say one of the things that we're talking about at Maxar is, and everyone seems to be talking about it, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, that there is a large loss of women, working women in the workforce right now. So I don't know if that's, you know, that's not just one group, but that's across our organization. And for us at Maxar, we've really put a priority in diversity and inclusion recently, especially with everything going on in the world. And to hear that women are dropping out, we really need to figure out how do we surround and support our parents, our women, how do we help them, how do we help with flexibility? And I think one of the skills that goes along with that, which is not always, I work for an engineering company, and so we have brilliant people that are amazing at technology, and sometimes they might not have the strongest empathy skills, right? And one of the things that I think we found is this is a time where we really need to have empathy, even if it doesn't feel natural or you don't understand what someone's going through, just sitting with them and listening to them. I hope that that's a way that we're able to figure out flexibility and figure out how do we help our women stay in the workforce, especially in high tech, especially in STEM fields, where we really want to make sure that we're keeping and promoting and growing all employees, but have a special place for the women in these fields.
Oh, we have worked so hard to get women in the workplace and inclusion, not just diversity, but inclusion. And we had talked before the podcast started about that in fields like cybersecurity, and I've done a lot of work in that area. And they only represent like 20%, 15 to 20% of that industry. And I'm thinking we can't afford to lose anymore, all the effort, but that's exactly what is happening in a lot of industry. So yeah, that's not a good thing. But you're right. We're there to look after our kids. We're there to look after our moms, our parents, other members of the family. And I know I face that situation with my mother, and so I'm pushing my brother. Okay, you need to step up and do this, the golden child of our family with his mother. So what skills or competencies or capabilities do you feel are most important right now in the organization? And what kinds of challenges do you think organizations face when it comes to developing those skills or competencies right now during this pandemic?
Okay, well, empathy. I mentioned empathy. And I think it's not just, not being able to listen to someone and pair it back to them, but really one of the things that we're missing, this is great to talk to you, but I wish we were in person, right? I wish I was able to see people. And what we miss the things that you pick up on, right? The subtle cues, the being with somebody in person, and just the energy you have. Even introverts, right? Everybody wants to be in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, but and I might be biased, I would also say that change management. So the ability to understand what we are going through and to help figure out where are we right now. I think what's so difficult about change right now is we don't know where we're going. And so when I think about organizational change or project change, usually it's here's where we are, here's the system we're implementing, and this is the gap we got to get people across. And right now it's here's where we are and we don't know where we're going. And so the skills from a change management perspective, I really think include making sure that you have resilience, making sure that you have a growth mindset, making sure that you have the ability to turn off your mouth and turn on your ears. Those things are going to help you as a leader in your organization, make sure that your team is okay and you're picking up on things that you need to. As a peer, make sure that you're there for your peers. But also when we feel resistance from a change perspective, right? Everybody says change is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think there are some changes that are really easy, but especially if they're positive changes. If I got $1 million, would be thrilled, would not have a problem with that. But when it comes to difficult change, that's where we get resistance, and that's where we get fear. And I think allowing ourselves the moment to remember that we have this big, beautiful brain, and there are all these different parts of the brain, and that when we go into a fear response, we're thrown into a place where we're not in our rational mind. We're not even emotional. So we're in a reactive place. And that's where we are right now, because there is so much fear that is happening. We might have a spike in COVID in our area. We might have, one of our friends is exposed, and then you start tracing, was I with that person? Did I somehow pass it to my elderly parent who is at high risk? I mean, there's so much fear that we have right now that I think grace and space for oneself.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the understanding of where you are on a change curve. And if you're if you are feeling resistant or not. So not everybody might be familiar with the change curve. Just if you are familiar with it, then I'm about to butcher the explanation, but you go from, an awareness to a general understanding into, being able to work with and adopt and move on. And I think we are in this cycle of going from awareness to understanding and back again. We aren't able to get out of this loop because, again, we don't know where we're going. So I think having change management skills and resilience, which doesn't mean that you don't allow yourself to feel emotions or that you compartmentalize, but it really means that you sit with things, you allow yourself to feel them, and then you figure out what's that next step, right? This is not forever. So how do we keep perspective, and how do we make sure that we are moving forward, and what's one thing that I can do to feel better or to make a difference today? It can go such a long way when you are feeling when you're in that fear cycle, or when you're frustrated, when you don't know what's next. And just in the past few weeks, I feel that many of us have felt like we've hit this wall. The best way I could describe it is I've run one marathon, and when I did the training, they told me that, at mile 22, you're going to hit the wall. You're going to hit the wall. And I had no idea what that meant until I hit the wall at mile 22.
Yeah.
And I couldn't run anymore. And I remember there was a woman who was shouting at me, pick your feet up, keep going. And I think she was trying to be motivational, and I kind of wanted to go punch her. But anyway, when you hit that wall, it can be hard to pick yourself back up. So I think it's understanding what are those steps that I need to take. How can I be resilient, even micro resilience, which will help me get out of, this cycle of, awareness to understanding and back again, which can lead us to a really difficult and hard place to be.
That's an excellent point, Kimberly. And you're right. That's exactly where people are finding themselves. It's like getting an understanding what the rules are, with COVID. I'm thinking of what we can and then the rules change again. Like in a day, it can change overnight. And it's like, I was planning for that or trying to deal with that. And now it's like a huge paradigm shift that you're going through, and everything goes back to zero. It's a crazy time. So it's like, at least just being able, like you said, to recognize what it is and say that is what it is for who knows how long. But so having the things that we need for our mental health, I think, becomes like a number one priority in dealing with that.
For sure.
And knowing that you're not the only one. There's so many people out there that are living the same emotions, right?
Absolutely. You look at we have an EAP, and the numbers of calls for the company have gone up, not just Maxar, but I mean, across the U.S. The suicide crisis hotline, they're seeing such a surge in people calling, and thank goodness we have a resource like that. People are therapists. I have a lot of therapist friends, and they're all booking out weeks ahead, right? Weeks out. And, they're back to back on Zoom calls. So, making sure that, yes, there are tools, and then you're able to take care of yourself, and that you aren't alone, because everybody is going through this right now.
Exactly.
And then as a leader in a company, I just think of being a manager of a team and being able to sit with and be with your team and understand that it's okay if you have people who are struggling. And you know what? It's okay if you have people who are performing like never before, rock stars, no problem, great. People are going to be all over the map when it comes to where we are right now, just like any change that we go through. So having that understanding that people are going to be cycling in their own way, and not not imposing your own place in the change curve on people, I think, is also important.
So what are the future, you think, threats or pain points if organizations don't take the time, to clearly define these skills that are needed for success in today's environment? You know, what could go wrong, you know, if we don't develop the right skills and competencies in our people?
I think we could lose a large percentage of our workforce and high potential, high performing people. So I think you could start to lose women. You could start to lose working dads. We also need to take into consideration people who are, you know, they're single, or maybe they don't have children, but they have their own mental health or expectations as well. So not developing empathy, resilience, the ability to listen, I think you risk losing people. You know, it's interesting. I think people call it's, again, working in an engineering company, and I was raised by an electrical engineer. So there was always a value that was placed on math and science, which I completely understand. And I did math and science all the way through my schooling, and then said, you know, I think I want to go work with people. But there's this idea that math and science engineering are hard, or there's weight behind them. And the work that we do in HR and org effectiveness and change management are soft skills. And I really bristle when people say soft skills, because this is the hard stuff, right? To me, it's almost easy to pull up a spreadsheet, to have a bunch of data and to say, here's the answer. But when we're talking about people, this is the hard stuff. And this is where you have to hang in there. And it's not, I was talking to a colleague yesterday, there's not a button, right? There's not an easy answer that you get to push and then there's your answer. So this is where you really have to be creative and resourceful. This is where you have to, again, understand what growth mindset is, so that you understand if somebody's struggling now, it's not always going to be that way. And I think the future threat is we're going to lose a lot of creativity and diversity in the workforce if we don't develop that skill set and value it as leadership teams. When we do value those skills as a leadership team and how we're moving the organization forward, then we really start seeing people bring their best selves and their whole selves to work, instead of feeling like they need to hide parts of themselves, which can lead to all sorts of problematic behavior. So I think if we can help leaders and employees develop and be okay with developing, I would call the social skills, not the soft skills, I think we'll be way far ahead of where we could be.
So, you know, we talked about a bit of that before the podcast, but how do you deal with that, like in terms of developing people? Is it all remote? Is it coaching? Like how do you go about developing these new skills that, you know, the employees might not have right now?
So for one of the things that we did just recently, about a month ago, is we put together a leader learning series where we focused on specific topics for the leader learning series, helping leaders have skills and tools to help them with things like empathy, with listening, having difficult conversations, having feedback conversations. So we did a specific targeted learning series for people managers. We also have a tool, we have LinkedIn Learning within our organization. And so another thing that we've done is we've gathered SMEs to put together learning paths in LinkedIn Learning, where there's a lot of content that people can go out and take on their own time, and not just the social skills, but also a lot of business skills, programming. So we're pushing people to continue to develop themselves and grow, which I think is, you know, it's incredibly important for your mental health to feel like you're growing and not stagnating. I think coaching is a big piece of this, and working with teams. This is being remote and being on a camera it's so easy for things to break down, because again, like I said before, I miss seeing people in person, but one of the things about seeing people in person is you can pick up on when something didn't land right. And it's easier to hide that now. You can go off camera, or you can say, nope, I was tired, or, my concealer wasn't working, and so I looked upset, or whatever, right? And so I think it's important to be able to pick up on some of those cues as much as we can and have those difficult conversations. And so again, one of the ways that we're trying to help equip our people is to make sure that they understand how to get into those kind of conversations and how to have productive conversations. So it's not, people don't feel like they're flailing when they need to have a difficult conversation.
I think you're so right, and good for you, you know, for putting those learning and development initiatives forward to your employees, because those are actions that are important to mitigate some of the threats. You know, you were talking about keeping people engaged. So, any other actions you think need to be taken so we don't get to that point where we're losing valuable, you know, talent within
Yeah.
the organization?
We have been publishing our mental health resources over and over again. We had a whole mental health series earlier in the year, and we're going to revive and do some more mental health education. So that we're working on the stigma, we're allowing people to talk about it, and we're giving managers and employees resources. And then I think a continued focus on ensuring people. So another area that we've really been working on is how do we measure performance, and how do we do things like goal setting and a performance cycle when we have the pandemic, because this is probably not the year to give someone a hard time because they weren't as productive as they needed to be when they've got, you know, their sick mom and the 15 dogs and the children and all of that. So it's really about the quality of their work and supporting employees so that we can get through this hole, rather than having an expectation on them that they're not, you know, that's unrealistic and they're unable to live up to. So another thing that we've done is we've relooked at how we do goal setting. We used to do annual goal setting, and now we're looking to do more dynamic so that people are goal setting more on a quarterly basis. And if things need to update, if things need to be shifted, that you're able to do that and not feel like you're going to miss out on a good performance year because you weren't able to meet this goal that you set at the beginning of 2020. Because I don't know about you, but I know the goals that I set at the beginning of 2020 are very different than the ones that I'm trying to achieve right now. So very, very different.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today, Kimberly, and for your wonderful insights into the new realities of work. Have a great weekend and enjoy your day today.
I will. I'm going to go have some tea right now, Christine. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.